Today we're covering the introduction of dynamics on classical guitar, as well as looking at the piece Etude No.3 Sound Picture. These both come from my free classical guitar method book, volume 1, and there's a link for that book in the description. There's free videos for the entire book, and if you like these videos, you're welcome to support the channel or the site, and there's a link for that as well. So I think what we'll do is, because Etude No.3 introduces dynamics, and as well as arpeggios with fretted notes. So what we'll do is I think we're going to cover the dynamics first so that we know what we're talking about when we cover the etude. When we talk about dynamics in the music world, we could get very complex. It's a lifelong study almost, right? But today is just an introduction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce 3 dynamic markings. Well, actually 5 dynamic markings when we talk about gradual increases and decreases. And then you can just play with those. And when we talk about dynamics as well, we might talk about just like loud versus soft playing. But of course, there's gradual increases of volume and gradual decreases of volume. Sometimes these are very obvious. Other times they're just part of our phrasing, like dynamic shaping. So we'll do 2 kind of exercises today to really experiment with it. When we think about dynamics, a really great model to think about is the human voice. Often when people are singing and you start singing a melody, you can't really belt out a lot of air like all of a sudden. It kind of gradually comes out often, like da, da, da. As you increase the airflow, you can get more volume. And that's often how we phrase music, is that we will, emerge into it and let things grow. And this is a natural process that we work on of growth and decay in the volume levels. Sometimes it's so obvious that we could call it like piano or we call it forte, but other times we would just call it dynamic shaping. It's like a natural way of speaking. When we speak, let's say we're telling a story or something, we would, maybe at the exciting part, we would start talking louder and more animated, and our voice would start growing with intensity. And other times we'd talk softly and more in a more tender way or something like that. It could still be intense even though it's soft. We could be like really intense even though it's soft. So it's a natural part of the way we speak and sing, and we want it to be a natural part of the way we play the instrument. And we'll be talking about this much more as we play familiar melodies such as like Twinkle Twinkle. We'll be talking about how how we say the words is very similar to how we play on the instrument. And so it's all connected with musicality and expression. But on a basic level, let's take a look at 3 dynamic markings first, which would be piano, soft, mezzo-forte, like medium, or forte, which would be like loud. So, those are 3 markings. So when you see those markings, you can follow them. But there's also a crescendo, which might be a gradual increase. So for example, getting louder. Or a diminuendo, which would be a gradual decrease in volume. So if we're starting loud, we'll get soft. So piano, soft, mezzo-forte, medium, forte, loud, crescendo is a gradual increase, and diminuendo is a gradual decrease. So there's 2 examples in my book, so let's just take a look at those. The first one includes a crescendo from piano all the way up to forte, and then a decrescendo from forte down to piano. So do your best to really exaggerate those dynamics. Start so light that you can barely hear it. And increase it just like a feather touch on the string. And then for the forte, you want to do a deep follow through in the hand, so really move that finger towards the palm and make good contact and push that string in, but not so much that it makes the guitar buzz or that it tenses up your body and tenses up your hand too much. But do try to over-exaggerate it to get the point across. It's kind of like when you go to see someone acting in the theater. From the stage, because the stage is so far away from the audience, like actors will have to overact on a stage. Unlike in a movie where the camera is like right there, on a stage, they really overact to get the point across. Same thing in music. We have to over-exaggerate more than we think because the point might not be getting across. So the next exercise is just going to be loud versus soft. So this example starts with a whole line that is loud and then a whole line that is soft. It's kind of like an echo effect. Loud and then you hear an echo. When you see dynamics in music, just because it says forte or it says piano, though, it doesn't necessarily mean that there won't be any variation within that. So just because it says forte doesn't mean that we're not going to crescendo a little bit. If we start forte, we might still push to here, but the general level is forte, is high. And even in the soft, we might increase a little bit, but overall it's soft. But there's still room for like musicality and growth and direction in the line. Another important factor to mention is that sometimes dynamics are written on the page and other times they are not written on the page. So as a musician, we will often add dynamics to our performances to add expression to them in a very natural way. Sometimes that means we're writing in like very clear dynamic markings like loud or soft in different places. Maybe more often than that is that the way we think about the phrasing, like if we were to sing the melody or something like that, we would have some natural growth and decay to the volume levels. So it's all part of just like playing in a natural way. Sometimes it's clearly written on the score by the composer. Other times it's written by the editor to help you. And other times the musician just adds the dynamics to the piece to make it expressive. And sometimes that requires a lot of knowledge and experience to decide where to add it, and other times it's just something that comes very naturally. Like if we were playing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, we could decide quite easily where that goes, and we'll cover that when we cover that song. We'll talk about this so much more later on. You don't really have to think about it too much right now. This is your first try at it, so just try to make it very clear in your playing. So Etude No. 3 sound picture uses dynamics, but it also uses arpeggios, and we've played arpeggios before previous etude, but now we're including the left hand fretted notes into the mix. So in the first line here, you have your first finger on C. Make sure that you are, in a good classical guitar position, the headstock around eye level, and that you're playing on your fingertip and your finger is curved. If your finger is flattened over, you'll accidentally mute out the E string. So this is a really good exercise for you to stay on your fingertips. And you're just going to leave that first finger down and let all the notes sustain when you're playing this piece. Let me play the piece for you and then we'll have a longer lesson on it. This might seem like a real easy piece at first because the left hand requirements aren't too intense, and it's all very repetitive. But once you add those dynamics into the mix, there's all sorts of things that can go wrong, right? So it's a piece that I hope you'll be able to play relatively easily, but that you're going to have to experiment with a ton to really get the musical expression out. So in the first line, once you're set up, you just have to start feather light and then slowly increase. And remember, dynamics are just as much about playing softly as they are about playing loud. You can't just force yourself to play louder and louder and louder. It's all relative to where you start and to the instrument you're playing. As far as a piano is concerned, everything a classical guitar does is soft. So, it's all relative to your instrument as well. So you also have a lot of planning to do because the crescendo in the first line here takes 4 measures to reach its climax. You have to pace yourself. If you crescendo all right away, then you aren't doing like a really continuous long crescendo anymore. You've kind of just you've brought it up too high. So you'll have to experiment with making it super gradual as well. As well as the sharp turn. Some people will find like after the first line that their body is tensed up a little bit, and that when they go to play piano, they kind of can't. They end up playing kind of forte. So you want to be able to make sure that you can crescendo while also keeping your body relaxed. And then when you switch to piano, making it a real obvious change to piano. At the end, we also have that writ, so that means slowing down. Slowing down. And then that squiggly line with the thumb, it means sweep your thumb across those top 3 strings. But still, be careful. Just because you reach the end of the piece and it's a chord, it doesn't mean you want to suddenly strum it really loud. You're still in the process of doing a decrescendo. So when you arrive there, you want to do just an absolute feather touch with that thumb. Just like touch the strings, but don't even push them really, making it really soft. So lots of things to work on there. You have your arpeggios in your right hand. You have arpeggios with the left hand involved. And you have sustain. You have to keep those notes down and keep it all ringing out and sounding beautiful. And you also have these not only gradual changes in dynamics, but sudden changes as well. So I want you to work on that and make sure you can do it all in a very clear and obvious way. So that if I was listening to you, I'd be like, oh, they're crescendoing. Oh, they just dropped to piano. Oh, they just jumped to forte. Oh, they're doing a decrescendo with a writ, with a nice soft chord at the end. Like, without seeing the music, I would want to be able to narrate what you're doing with the dynamics, as if you're telling a story. And some parts of the story you get really excited and animated and louder, and other parts you get more, maybe tender or softer. So it's just like the human voice in that way. So yeah, lots of experimentation and exaggeration for the dynamics.